Welcome to the Watchful Citizen. This is a program sponsored by the Lancaster County Democrats. And my name is Barbara Baier, and today we have two wonderful guests. They're going to talk to us about the Employee Free Choice Act. We have Ken Mass here, who is President and Treasurer of the state AFL-CIO. And we have Vlcek, who is on the Executive Committee of the United Steelworkers that are associated with what we formerly called Goodyear.
Correct.
Well, welcome, both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, tell us a little bit about the unions and how important they are in the recession. I want to go and kind of get this conversation set up that before we talk about the act, we talk a little bit about the labor movement and why it's important to us.
Well, the labor movement and being a union member is very important. It's an opportunity to have a voice on the job, first of all, the workplace. Second of all, it's an opportunity for the employees there to negotiate and a contract for wages and health benefits and working conditions and that kind of thing. So in today's age, that's mighty important. And you'll see, as we've seen, more and more interest. We have about 67 million folks that say they would join a union today. And we'll talk more about it as we get into the Employee Free Choice Act. But that's what's important, giving a voice and that voice of competitive with corporations and having a voice at the work site.
And Rod, can you add to why unions are important during this recession?
Absolutely. You know, the unions, what's good about having a union in your place is not only with the benefits that they provide, but the safety of being on the job. You know, to know that you can have a union safety committee to work with employers, employees, to discuss safety issues that help people, especially in a time when there's a lot of pressure on the jobs with the recession being what it is and cutbacks and outsourcing of certain jobs. It's good to know that you have a union behind you to help you, especially when I say is on the safety issue of it.
Now, unions have been around for a long time, but in the United States, they didn't really become true players in the workplace until the Great Depression and Roosevelt's presidency. Can you tell us how unions helped create the American middle class?
Well, by giving the opportunity for employees to organize and through collective bargaining, the opportunity to raise their wages, which basically every dollar they turn over, it turns over 7 times in the community. So helping the communities, helping their families, and creating a middle class, moving them up into the middle class, will help the community and the state and the nation as a whole.
And before we had unions, wages were really very depressed, weren't they?
Well, that's true. Now, you say, you know, in the Great Depression, unions were over 125 years old, going back in the 1800s when the first ones were formed. But yes, the industrial unions and the AFL-CIO was basically building trades. CIO was industrial unions. Personally, myself, I come out of the old Western Electric plant, was an industrial union. Rod comes out of an industrial union, so yes, from the Great Depression and from there up into Roosevelt, that's when the industrial unions really took off, yes.
And so now we're here in 2009, and we have this Employee Free Choice Act before us. It's before Congress right now. Can you tell us what that is?
Employee Free Choice Act is very simple. What it does, it gives an opportunity for the employees that want to be organized, an opportunity. They can go through what we call majority sign-up, or they can go through an election, and through an election approved by the National Labor Relations Act. The key change will be from the employees having the choice for where it's at now, where the employers request an election. So that's what basically it does. It also puts in there a guaranteed contract through mediation and arbitration possibly, where they can reach a contract for a first year. So basically that's what it does. It's very simple. I'm sure we'll get into it here down the line, but it gives the employees that want to be organized a choice.
So right now we have the ability to have either a secret ballot or the sign-up method to bring a union into a workplace. And so we would change to be able to have the employees decide. You're saying that the employers can decide whether or not there's going to be a vote? And what happens in those kinds of employer-led elections?
Well, basically, here's how it starts. Is you, let's say, for example, you have 100 people that want to organize. They contact an international union that may be interested in organizing them. From that, they make the choice. Card check employer sign-up has been around forever. That's how unions were formed prior to 1935 when the National Labor Relations Act came into play. The National Labor Relations Act came into play where if people wanted to organize, then the employer would request 30%. 30% of that 100 had to say, yes, we want to form a union. And then the employer would request an election through the National Labor Relations Board. It would come in, and they just set the date of that election. In that time, that's when the employer would start their one-on-one meetings with their employees, meetings at the work site, and talking about why a union is not needed. You don't need a third party here. We'll take care of you. That's when the intimidation, the fear that was pushed from employers to the employees to keep the union out of there. Terms like, go ahead and organize, we'll move the plant, and other things like that that happen. So that's what's happened over the years, and the intimidation occurs. What this will do, again, it puts it in the hands of the employees to request that. And that's the change. It takes the employers out of it. Employers will still have their day in court, don't get me wrong, but and when there's election, the labor board will still come in and verify the election.
But that's really important, Barb, what Ken touched on, is the employees have a choice now. Instead of putting and leveling out the playing field, instead of the employer choosing when we're going to have election, how many days down the road we'll have election when they petition the National Labor Relations Board. But unfortunately, what's good about this now with the Employee Free Choice Act is, like Ken mentioned, 90 days, if nothing can be reached after they approve of an agreement, within 90 days they bring in a federal mediator. A mediator comes in and tries to get both parties to come together to have binding contract. If that doesn't happen after 90 days, after 30 more days, which will be 120, they bring in a federal arbitrator, and that's binding arbitration. They will come to an agreement. So it's not dragged on for 9 months, a year, 15 months. It will be handled within 4 months, and that's an important thing.